I told my friend her forever Brian's chest tattoo might scare off future men. Brian's gone, but her loyalty isn't. And when I said it could be a deal breaker for most guys, she called me heartless. Now everyone's taking sides, and I'm wondering if I said too much or just spoke the truth. Ula walked into the living room, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She was a beautiful woman in her mid-30s, with a fiery spirit and a gentle laugh that could fill any room. Her dark hair was pulled back into a ponytail, revealing the tattoo that had become the focal point of so many of her heartaches. It was a simple script, "Forever Brian's," inked in a shade of blue that mirrored the sadness in her eyes. The room was dimly lit, the only sound being the crackling of the fireplace and the occasional pop from the logs. My wife, Rachel, looked up from her glass of wine with a concerned expression. She knew the conversation had taken a turn, but she hadn't expected it to end with Ula storming downstairs. Rachel had invited her over for a night of movies and girl talk, hoping it would help lift her spirits after another failed relationship. But the topic of the tattoo had surfaced again, and with it, a flood of unresolved emotions. "What's going on?" I asked, pausing my game. Rachel gave me a look that said it was time to put aside the virtual battles and deal with the real-life one unfolding in our home. Ula's voice quivered as she spoke. "They just don't get it. It's not like I'm trying to replace Brian. It's just, he was my first love. He'll always be a part of me." Summary to the power of one: Ula, a young woman with a Forever Brian's tattoo from a past love who died from cancer, enters the room upset after another breakup. Rachel, the narrator's wife, had invited her for a night in, hoping to cheer her up. The conversation turns to Ula's tattoo, which has been an issue in her relationships, and she expresses her pain and the difficulty of letting go of her first love. I took a deep breath and set down the controller. This wasn't the first time we'd discussed the tattoo, but it was the first time she'd asked for my opinion so directly. I knew the history, the pain, and the weight it carried in her life. I also knew the toll it had taken on her relationships, as one by one, her partners had expressed their discomfort with the permanent reminder of her past love. I leaned back in my chair, choosing my words carefully. "Look, Ula, I get that it's a part of your history, and I'm not here to tell you what to do. But maybe, just maybe, it's time to think about what you're telling the guys you date. That tattoo. It's like a neon sign saying I'm not over my ex. And no matter how much you say you are, that ink doesn't lie." Rachel nodded in agreement, her eyes reflecting a mix of empathy and understanding. She'd seen the pattern too. The way each new guy would start off strong, only to fade away when the conversation turned serious. The way Ula would cling to the past, her voice filled with the same passion and longing she had when she talked about the first kisses and stolen moments with Brian. The silence grew thick, and Ula's eyes searched ours, looking for a glimmer of hope or a way out of the situation she'd found herself in. Her hand instinctively touched the tattoo, a silent plea for validation. Rachel reached out and took her hand, giving it a comforting squeeze. "It's not about moving on from Brian," I clarified. "It's about making room for someone else. It's about showing them that you're open to a new forever." Rachel nodded, her gaze never leaving Ula's. "We're not saying you have to forget him, just that maybe it's time to acknowledge that your life has moved on too." Ula's eyes closed, and she took a shaky breath. "But what if I'm never ready?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the crackling fire. I leaned forward, my elbows on my knees. "Then you have to decide if you want to keep letting the past define your future. If you keep expecting these guys to live in the shadow of your first love, you're never going to find the love story you deserve." The room remained still, the only sound the occasional pop of the fire. Rachel handed Ula a tissue, and she took it, wiping her eyes. "You're right," she said finally, her voice firm. "It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to me either." With that, she stood up, a new resolve in her posture. "Thank you, both of you. I need to think about this." She gave us a weak smile and headed upstairs, leaving Rachel and me in the quiet embrace of the firelight. The next few days passed in a blur of contemplation for Ula. She avoided talking about the tattoo, lost in her own thoughts. Rachel and I gave her space, not pushing the issue further, knowing that she had to come to terms with her feelings on her own. One evening, Rachel and I were cooking dinner when Ula called, her voice tentative but determined. "I've made an appointment to have it covered up," she said. "I don't want to be a placeholder anymore. I want to find my forever person too." We shared a look of relief, the weight of our conversation from the night before lifting from the air. "That's a big step," Rachel said gently. "We're here for you, no matter what." Ula's voice grew stronger. "I know, and I'm ready to take it." With that, she hung up, leaving us to wonder what the future would hold for her. The day of the appointment arrived, and Rachel and I decided to accompany Ula for moral support. The tattoo parlor was warm and welcoming, the buzz of the needle a distant hum in the background. The artist listened to her story with kind eyes and offered several design options to cover the old script. After much deliberation, Ulla chose a delicate butterfly, its wings spread in flight, covering the words that had held her back for so long. The transformation was slow, each layer of ink a step towards a new chapter. Rachel and I held her hands, our hearts heavy with the gravity of her decision. When it was done, she looked down at the new artwork, a tear rolling down her cheek. "It's beautiful," she murmured, tracing the butterfly with her fingertip. "It's like he's setting me free." We drove home in silence, the gravity of the moment sinking in. The tattoo was gone, but the memory of Brian remained, nestled in her heart alongside the hope for a new love. The journey ahead was uncertain, but as we pulled into the driveway, Ulla stepped out of the car with a newfound lightness in her step. She had made her choice, and she was ready to see where it would take her. Over the next few weeks, Ulla began to notice a shift in her dating life. The men she met didn't seem to fixate on her past as much. The butterfly on her chest became a conversation starter rather than a barrier, symbolizing growth and transformation. With each date, she grew more confident, allowing herself to open up and truly engage with the people in front of her. One night, she met Tom at a local coffee shop. He was tall and lanky, with a wry smile that made her feel at ease. They talked for hours about their favorite books, childhood memories, and shared dreams. When the topic of tattoos came up, she revealed her recent change, explaining the significance of the butterfly. Tom nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "I can see that," he said. "It's like you're giving yourself permission to fly." His words resonated with her, and she felt a spark of connection that she hadn't felt in a long time. As the weeks turned into months, Ulla and Tom grew closer. He never pressured her about her past, never made her feel like she had to explain herself. Instead, he listened with an open heart, offering his own stories of love and loss. They laughed together, cried together, and built a bond that was unshaken by the ghosts of relationships past. The night Uli knew she had found her new forever person came unexpectedly. They were walking along the beach, the moon casting a silver glow on the waves. She looked up at Tom, his profile etched in the soft light, and realized that the ache she'd carried for so long had finally begun to fade. Without thinking, she reached for his hand and squeezed it tight. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not being like the others." Tom looked down at her, his smile warm. "I'm not competing with a memory," he said. "I'm just here, wanting to create new ones with you." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of the ocean and the promise of a fresh start. Ulla felt the weight of the tattoo lifted, replaced by the gentle flutter of the butterfly's wings, reminding her that she was free to love again. And as they continued to walk, hand in hand, she knew that she had finally found her way out of the shadow and into the light of a new beginning. Tom proved to be the understanding and supportive partner she had longed for. He never once made her feel like she was being compared to a ghost, never once made her feel guilty for the love she had lost. Instead, he nurtured the love that was growing between them, allowing it to blossom without the constraints of fear or insecurity. As the seasons changed, so did their relationship. The butterfly on Ulla's chest became a symbol of their journey together, a reminder of the transformation she had undergone. Each time she looked at it, she felt a mix of gratitude for the past and excitement for the future. It was a constant reminder that she had made the right choice in letting go of the tattoo that had held her back for so long. 1 year later, Ulla found herself standing in front of the same tattoo parlor, her heart racing with a different kind of anticipation. She had decided to get another tattoo, one that represented her newfound love and the life she had built with Tom. This time, Rachel was there to support her, holding her hand as the artist etched a matching set of butterfly wings on the small of her back, right next to the spot where Tom had his own tattoo of a single wing. The pain was a small price to pay for the joy that filled her heart as she watched the design come to life. It was a declaration to the world that she had moved on, that she had found her new forever person. And as she looked in the mirror at the completed piece, she knew that she was ready to embrace the next chapter of her story, with Tom by her side, forever entwined in the dance of love and life. Tom proposed to her on a quiet evening at home, surrounded by candles and their favorite music. He knelt down, holding a ring that had been carefully chosen to reflect the beauty of the butterfly that had become a part of their shared history. Ulla's eyes filled with tears as she nodded, whispering, "Yes," over and over again. The wedding was a celebration of love, not just for Ulla and Tom, but for the idea that love could endure, even when faced with the most insurmountable of obstacles. The butterfly theme was present throughout the decor, a gentle nod to the journey that had led them to this moment. Rachel, standing by her side as maid of honor, watched with a tear in her eye as Ulla walked down the aisle, her heart soaring with the promise of what was to come. The years passed, and the couple faced the ups and downs of marriage with grace and humor. They grew together, built a family, and made memories that would last a lifetime. The tattoo remained a part of Ulla, but now it was a symbol of rebirth, of finding love again in the most unexpected of places. And as they grew old together, holding hands and watching their children play, she knew that she had made the right decision all those years ago. The night she passed, surrounded by her loved ones, she had a vision of Brian standing at the edge of a meadow, his smile as warm and inviting as the first day she had met him. But instead of running to him, she turned to Tom, who was holding her hand, his eyes filled with the same love that had carried them through the years. "I found my forever person," she whispered to him, her voice filled with peace. And as she took her last breath, she knew that she had lived a life filled with love, not once, but twice, and that was a gift beyond measure. Years later, as Ulla's children grew curious about the meaning behind her butterfly tattoo, she shared the story of her first love and the lessons she had learned. She spoke of the pain of loss, the beauty of remembrance, and the strength it took to open her heart to love again. Her daughters listened, their eyes wide with wonder, as she described the whirlwind romance and the deep pain that followed. Her son, a young man now, nodded thoughtfully, understanding the gravity of her words. They asked about the men who had come and gone, each one unable to accept the permanent ink that marked her heart. She spoke of the hurt but also of the growth, how each experience had shaped her into the woman she was today. Her daughters, both teenagers now, were just beginning to navigate the tumultuous waters of their own heartaches. They clung to her words like a lifeline, seeking guidance in their own journeys of love and loss. The conversation grew deeper as the fire crackled in the hearth, their faces flickering in the warm glow. Ulla shared how the butterfly had come to symbolize her transformation, a reminder that she had the power to break free from the cocoon of her past and soar into a new future. Her son, his voice gruff with the beginnings of a man's timbre, asked about Tom, the man who had loved her so fiercely despite the shadow of another. "Tom taught me that love isn't about possession or competition," she said softly. "It's about finding someone who sees you, all of you, and chooses you every day." Her children leaned in closer, the warmth of the room a cocoon of its own, as she recounted the moment she had met Tom, the way his laughter had made her feel seen and heard in a way she hadn't felt in years. The conversation lingered long into the night, a tapestry of memories and wisdom woven together. Her children grew quiet, contemplating the depth of her experiences, the resilience of her heart. In that moment, Ulla felt a profound bond with her children, a shared understanding that love could be both fierce and fragile, that it could heal and hurt, but ultimately, it was the most powerful force in the universe. As they grew older, her children faced their own heartaches and triumphs. They turned to her, their butterfly mom, for guidance and comfort. Her tattoo became a symbol of hope for them, a reminder that even the most painful endings could give way to beginnings filled with light and color. And as they grew into adults and fell in love themselves, they carried the lessons she had shared with them, using them to navigate their own relationships with compassion and courage. The house grew quiet as the children drifted off to sleep, their hearts full of the love story that had shaped their mother's life. Rachel, now a silver-haired woman with a knowing smile, hugged Ulla tight. "You did it," she whispered. "You found your way out of the shadow." Ulla nodded, her eyes reflecting the warmth of the fire and the love that filled her heart. "Thanks to you, I did," she murmured. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, and she squeezed her friend's hand. The tattoo remained, a silent sentinel of the past. But now, it was surrounded by a garden of new memories, each one a testament to the beauty of a heart that had loved and been loved in return. The butterfly had become a symbol not just of transformation, but of the enduring nature of love, a reminder that no matter how much time had passed, she was forever Brian's, and forever Tom's too. One evening, as the children grew into young adults, Ulla gathered them around the fireplace, the warmth of the flames casting a gentle glow on their faces. Her daughters, their eyes filled with curiosity, and her son, his gaze introspective, all leaned in as she began to speak. She told them of the passionate whirlwind that had been her first love, the pain of losing him, and the ink that had been a beacon of her grief for so long. Her voice was steady, her eyes clear as she recounted the moments that had etched themselves into her soul. They listened, rapt, as she spoke of the men who had come after, each one unable to see beyond the shadow of the past. They heard the sorrow in her voice, the strength it had taken to move on, and the eventual realization that love didn't have to be defined by the permanence of ink on skin. It was in the moments shared, the laughter, the tears, the quiet understanding that grew between two people who chose each other every day. Her son spoke up, his voice tentative. "Mom, was it hard to love again?" Ulla took a deep breath, her hand absently tracing the outline of the butterfly. "It was," she admitted, "but it was also the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. Because every time I looked at Tom, every time he made me laugh or held me when I cried, I knew that love could find me again. And it did, in a way that was different, but no less real." Her daughters nodded, their eyes reflecting the understanding that had grown within them. "We're lucky to have two dads," one said, a smile playing at her lips. Ula looked at her children, her heart swelling with love. "Yes, you are. And I'm lucky to have loved two incredible men." The conversation grew quiet, each lost in their own thoughts, the warmth of the fire wrapping them in a cocoon of comfort. Rachel, who had been quietly listening from the corner of the room, approached and placed a hand on Ula's shoulder. "You've come so far," she whispered. Ula turned to her friend, her eyes shining. "And I couldn't have done it without you." Rachel's smile was like the sun breaking through the clouds, a beacon of warmth and support that had been with her every step of the way. Together, they watched as their children grew into adults, each one bearing the marks of their own loves and losses. They saw the butterfly take flight in their hearts too, as they faced the world with the same courage and grace that their mother had taught them. And in the quiet moments, as they shared their own stories of love and heartache, Ula knew that she had not just survived the storm, but had emerged stronger, her wings spread wide, ready to embrace whatever the future held. The house was filled with laughter and light, a testament to the love that had grown and transformed within its walls. And as they sat together, the butterfly tattoo a silent reminder of a love that had never truly died, they knew that they had built something beautiful from the ashes of the past. They had learned to fly. The tattoo artist, whose hand had been the vessel for Ula's transformation, had been touched by her story. He saw in her a strength that resonated with his own experiences and those of others who had come through his shop. One day, as she was leaving, he handed her a card with the name of a support group scribbled on the back. "You're not alone," he said softly. "There are others who know what it's like to love and lose, to carry that love with them forever." Ula looked at the card, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and trepidation. She had never considered that there might be others like her, others who understood the complex tapestry of emotions that came with a love that refused to fade. With Rachel's encouragement, she decided to give the group a try. The first meeting was a blend of nerves and relief. Faces she had never met before shared stories that mirrored her own, their hearts laid bare in the warm, dimly lit room. There were tears, and there was laughter, as they spoke of the people they had lost and the ways in which they had tried to move on. The weight of her own story lifted slightly as she realized she was not the only one to carry such a burden. In the months that followed, Ula became a regular at the meetings. She shared her journey, the pain of letting go, the joy of finding new love, and the delicate dance of honoring the past while embracing the present. She listened as others shared their own tattoos of loss, each one a silent testament to a love that had shaped their lives. Through the group, she discovered a community of people who knew the bittersweet taste of a love that was forever etched into their very beings. They became her tribe, her confidants, her cheerleaders as she stepped into a new chapter with Tom. And as she watched their own stories unfold, she realized that love was not just about finding someone to complete her, but about becoming whole within herself, about allowing the past to be a stepping stone rather than a cage. The butterfly on her chest had become a symbol of her resilience, a reminder that she had the power to transform, to break free from the grip of grief and fly towards the light. With each meeting, she grew stronger, her wings spreading wider as she learned to navigate the complexities of loving again. Tom, ever supportive, attended some of the meetings with her. He listened with an open heart, offering his own perspective on the tattoo that had once been a source of contention. Slowly, he began to see it not as a threat, but as a part of her, a piece of her soul that had led her to him. And as Ula watched the men and women around her find their way through the labyrinth of their hearts, she knew that she had made the right choice. The tattoo was no longer a barrier, but a bridge, connecting her to a world of love and understanding that transcended the boundaries of time and ink. The night she decided to get the butterfly covered up, she approached the tattoo artist with a new sense of clarity. He listened to her story with a gentle nod, understanding the journey she had been on. As he worked, the pain was a reminder of the transformation she had undergone, the way she had grown from a caterpillar into a creature of beauty and strength. When it was done, she looked in the mirror, her heart pounding. The script was gone, replaced by a vibrant, intricate butterfly that danced across her skin. It was a declaration of her newfound freedom, a celebration of the love she had lost and the love she had found. Rachel and Tom were by her side, their eyes reflecting the joy and peace that had filled her heart. As they left the tattoo parlor, Ula felt the wind on her face, the same wind that had whispered the promise of a new beginning so many years ago. She looked up at the night sky, the stars winking down at her, and whispered, "Thank you, Brian. Thank you for setting me free." The tattoo had served its purpose, a silent sentinel of her past. Now, it was time to embrace the present, to let the butterfly on her chest be a symbol of the life she had built, the love she had found, and the woman she had become. The shadow had lifted, and she was ready to soar. The tattoo artist, a man named Marcus, had become more than just the hand that had inked her body. His eyes, filled with a knowing sadness, had seen the depth of her pain, the strength of her love, and the quiet determination to move forward. As he worked on the cover-up, their conversations grew deeper, sharing stories of love lost and found, of hearts that had been broken and stitched back together. Marcus, a widower himself, understood the weight of the name she had carried for so long. He spoke of his own journey, the love he had for his late wife, and the tattoos that adorned his arms, each one a testament to the moments that had defined his life. His gentle touch and understanding words became a balm to her soul, soothing the raw edges of her grief and guiding her towards a new understanding of love. As the butterfly took shape, their connection grew stronger. They found solace in their shared experiences, a bond forged in the fires of loss and rebirth. The hours in the tattoo chair became a sacred space, a sanctuary where Ulla could shed the last remnants of her cocoon, emerging as a creature reborn. Tom waited outside, pacing nervously. He had supported her through every step of this journey, and now he waited for her to complete the transformation. Rachel had assured him that this was a necessary part of her healing, and he had faith in her judgment. When Ulla finally emerged, her eyes were wet with tears, but her smile was the most genuine he had seen in years. She showed him the butterfly, its wings fluttering with new life. "It's beautiful," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Just like you." The three of them stood in the parlor, the air charged with the energy of change. Rachel hugged her friend tightly, her own eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You've come so far," she whispered, "and we're all so proud of you." Ulla felt a weight lift from her chest, the burden of the past slipping away like the ink beneath the new design. With Tom and Rachel by her side, she stepped into the night, ready to embrace the future that awaited her. The butterfly on her chest was a reminder of her past, but it was also a promise of the beauty that could emerge from the depths of sorrow. And so, she flew.